Hello, friends. You are welcome to Anchor Network, where you get updates of things happening around you. I appreciate every one of you that have subscribed to this channel. And if you have not subscribed, I say thank you very much, because I know that at the end of this news, you are going to subscribe. And I want you to press the red button and also the bell icon so that you'll be notified anytime we publish any news. Thank you very much once again. Malabu case. I was pressured to implicate ex-president Goodluck Jonathan, Russian middleman Agiv. A former Russian diplomat, Edna Agiv, who once alleged that former President Goodluck Jonathan allegedly received $200 million in the controversial Malabu deal, has reversed himself on the claim, stressing that the initial statement in which he indicted the former president was made under duress. Mr. Agiv, a middleman and defendant in the case, helped negotiate the transfer of the OPL 245 oil block to Shell and Eni, two multinationals at the heart of the scandal. He made the new claim on Wednesday while giving evidence before an Italian court in Milan over the controversial Malabu scandal. Premium Times reported that Mr. Agiv's initial statement was read, but he declined to confirm the statement. Mr. Agiv claimed he was under presence Mr. Agiv claimed he was under pressure in the interview to mention a name. When confronted with his exact statement alleging that Mr. Jonathan may have received money, a defense lawyer interrupted and objected to the evidence on payments to the former president. When asked whether he thought Mr. Jonathan got money from the deal, he said his statement to the FBI should be understood that he thought it was a possibility money would go to Mr. Jonathan, but he had no evidence. Commenting on his previous statement, Mr. Agiv said it was just speculation and declined to confirm his statement. It was reported that at this point, the president of the court, however, silenced him even as the lawyer continued to interrupt. He promptly denied any wrongdoing. In 2017, BuzzFeed quoted a 2017 expert of FBI submissions to Italian authorities wherein Mr. Agiv alleged that if Mr. Etete actually paid out bribes to Nigerian officials, Agiv stated that he would think President Goodluck Jonathan got at least $200 million of this money. Former President Goodluck Jonathan had on many occasions denied this allegation, recently describing it as cheap, predictable and recycled falsehood. A statement issued last May by Jonathan's media advisor, Mr. Ikechukwu Eze, said former President Goodluck Jonathan did not ask for or collect any bribes, neither has he been charged or asking or collect bribes, neither he will ever be charged with asking for or collecting bribes, because such never happened. The Malabu scandal involved the transfer of about $1.1 billion by Shell and Eni through the Nigerian government to accounts controlled by a former Nigerian Petroleum Minister, Dan Etete. From accounts controlled by Mr. Dan Etete, about half the money, $520 million, went to accounts of companies controlled by Aliyu Abubakar, popularly known in Nigeria as the owner of AA Oil. Anti-corruption investigators and activists suspect Mr. Aliyu fronted for top officials of Jonathan administration as well of officials of Shell and Eni. The transaction was authorized in 2011 by Mr. Jonathan through some of his cabinet ministers, and the money was payment for OPL 245, one of the Nigeria's richest oil blocks. Speaking at the Milan court on Wednesday, Mr. Agiv disclosed that he knew former President Olusegun Obasanjo for the first time in the 1990s and campaigned for the former president's release in the 1990s, but didn't learn about OPL 245 until 2008 when working for a Russian oil company. He further disclosed that he knew the OPL 245 block was revoked because Mr. Etete was associated with Malabu, the company owning the block. He alleged further that former President Olusegun Obasanjo said the block was intended for late Sani Abacha, a former Nigerian military ruler. According to Barnaby Pace, a campaigner at anti-corruption group Global Witness, who was at the Milan court, the defendants explained that after Mr. Abacha's death, the company fell to Mr. Etete. Details of the Italian court proceedings were provided by Mr. Pace, whose global witness has partnered with Premium Times in the investigations. Mr. Agiv, who started his career for the Soviet Union Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where he was a senior official for arms control, disclosed that his job was only to find an investor because Mr. Etete was in charge of negotiating with the Nigerian government and he didn't need any help or contact from him. Mr. Agiv alleged that the block was given back to Mr. Etete by Mr. Obasanjo to shore up political support in the south of Nigeria. Mr. Agiv disclosed that he was introduced to Mr. Etete by Aliyu Guzau in 2008. Mr. Guzau served as National Security Advisor under Messrs. Obasanjo and Jonathan. The former security chief wanted him to find a Russian oil company investor to deal with Etete and Shell, he added. He said Mr. Guzau later introduced him to John Copplestone of Shell, whom Guzau knew because he had been head of the M16 station in Abuja. The defendant explained that he only ever met Mr. Etete because of Malabu, and Mr. Etete was the only person representing the firm on OPL 245. When asked whether Shell knew he was being paid a commission, he replied in the affirmative, adding that he had to prove he had a mandate with Malabu because Shell employees were under very strict instruction not to disclose OPL 245. Mr. Agiv was asked about the dinner in February 2010 between Ernest Claudia Disazi, Mr. Etete himself, and Emeka Obi, another middleman convicted for his role in the Malabu scandal. He explained that Messrs. Obi and Disazi had a good relationship based on the body language he had did. However, that Shell was worried about the role of the Attorney General, Mohammed Adoke. He also claimed that Mr. Etete told him he and Mr. Adoke were close, and the former Attorney General was in turn close to Mr. Jonathan. The next hearing over the controversial case is scheduled for July 17th. Guys, a lot of things are really going on in Nigeria, and this Malabu case has really been, has been lingering for a very long time. We don't even know when it's going to, come to an end. Good Luck has been coming to say he doesn't know anything about all this scandal and all of that. But one thing is that, it's good that the Good Luck administration, really went away, the APC came in, because a lot of these revelations wouldn't have even come up in the first place. But unfortunately, we found out the reason why PDP was voted out, the same thing is still happening under APC. And you see APC, moving from pillar to post. They are just, it's a win chance. It has been established that, by many people in many quarters, that the fight against corruption is nothing but just to fight opposition and to name and shame. But when you look at the whole thing in depth, you see that they are not really doing the main thing, and it boils down that both parties, whether APC or PDP, nobody's even ready to fight this corruption, to stand still. When it's favoring them, they turn a blind eye. But when it is other people, they try to swing into action. Just look at what is happening with Fayoshi. You can imagine EFCC saying that they don't even know way forward. They are even handicapped. A lot of witnesses, a lot of things that they thought they've gathered, everything is on standstill. And before Fayoshi could leave office, then they were really harassing him from pillar to post. You can imagine since November last year, no judgment has been made concerning Fayoshi, and now they are telling us they don't know the way forward. They don't know. They are just at a crossed position. So what are we talking about all of this? Many Nigerians are just walking on the street. It is what they tell us, that we know, because they are not going to even tell us. Even the things that we even know, there's no justice anywhere. We have a lot of cabals, and this oil block we're talking about, you can imagine people, talking about, quoting billions, and we have a lot of poor people to the extent that our country is now the headquarters of poverty, people living in abject poverty. You can imagine such a thing. And with our here, we hear billions every now and then. That is just my own position on this matter. You guys, I would like you guys to deliberate on it. Let's have a good comments in the comment section. Thank you very much. Bye.